Now, when it comes to wet market, all you think about is gooey, nasty, and wet. Is that true? Welcome back to Soul Quest. Today, we're going to talk about the wet market in China. Now, the main reason why I go to these wet market in the first place is because of price. You can get low prices on items and products. But what if I tell you, if you stay tuned till the end of the video, I'll tell you a secret hack on how to get 90% off from these very low price product out here. And next, let's talk about location. Where can I find any of these wet market? Now, this is more like local wet market out here in the Nanshan community. But basically, if you do have like a big community, you do expect a better wet market in that certain area because that's when they conjugate and get the most profit. And of course, there are some pop-up wet market here and there in smaller communities, but it wouldn't be as good as it is in this type of community out here. And of course, there are multiple type of wet market out there, indoor, outdoor, and even small wet markets. But preferably, you want to go to these type of wet market where it's like all combined into one set of street. And of course, they still do take cash. But the main problem is that a lot of sellers would probably prefer a cashless transaction just because they don't have to go through the hassle of finding change, or either you give out big money and they don't have any change at all. They have to run to another shop and ask for change. So it's preferable that you do have your WeChat ready to scan the QR code. And yes, since this is a wet market, you're able to haggle here and there. But most of the time at these wet market, the price is already fixed. So there's no much room to haggle much anymore. But if you go to like a smaller wet market, then yes, it is expected for you to haggle for these prices. Next, let's talk a bit about price. Of course, it is cheap, but how cheap it is comparison to a supermarket. Basically, it's about like a 20% off compared to a regular product you buy from a supermarket. It's not much off, but I guess if you buy in bulk, it does add up here and there. Typically, the size of a wet market is like 1.5 football field, and sometimes even more than that. And as a new expat going to like a new wet market, it's gonna be like a maze for you. You do have to explore the area and get used to it. Now, unless if you do have a wet market near your community, I wouldn't say it's really worth it as a new expat to explore to buy your groceries at the first place. And now with all these information in hand, is it worth it to go to the wet market to buy your groceries? I would say yes, if it's close to your community or if you just want the thrill of the hunt. I think people find amusement in just finding a discount. It makes them feel good. But as for me, a lazy ass that like to sit on the couch and watch some TV, may edit videos, yada yada, not my kind of thing. Now, if it's a bit further away from your community, more than like 700 meters, then definitely not worth it because you do have to consider the transportation time, fee, and also the blood circulation in your hand because you're gonna be holding that plastic like for about 15 minutes. It's gonna be pretty heavy as well. Now, I think it's definitely worth it if you want to buy in bulk and you already know the shop that you're going to go to or you have recommendation because you can get a big discount out of it. But typically as a new expat, you have zero information regarding these things, and I wouldn't really recommend for a new expat to just go straight to the wet market and buy their product. And now, as promised, how can I even get discount on top of this low prices from this wet market? Now, first, let's talk about the working hour of a typical Chinese people out here. They would go to work around 7 a.m. and then they would leave work typically around 5 p.m. up to 8 p.m. depending on what their jobs are. Now, this is the prime time for a lot of wet market to kind of sell their product, put out their product to the front. And that is around 7 up to 8:30 p.m. Now, this is the prime time for you to get discount on top of these low prices, especially for vegetables and fruits. You can get up to like 90% discount. Now, the main reason why this happened because most of the food and vegetables are planted in their garden or either their hometown, and they don't really have much preservatives in them. And that means they're gonna go bad really quickly. Therefore, they wanna like try to get the product flipped over as soon as possible. But yeah, this is like my experience and what I know about these wet market. And I hope this will help you out as well into making a decision where to buy your groceries at. Again, if you have any question, comment down below and I'll try to reply to you as soon as possible. Yeah, that's about it. Soul Quest logging out. Peace.